I think this laser release is a really important update, as it shifts the product from a purely diagnostic learning tool to an interventional one. Even though there are already no real alternative training options available for learning how to diagnose ROP, this add-on further increases the importance of having a simulator that enables proper training for learning how to diagnose and how to treat ROP. As a brief recap, when a baby is diagnosed with ROP and pharmaceuticals are either unavailable or ineffective, laser therapy becomes the ultima ratio treatment option. The purpose of the laser is to treat the avascular areas of the retina so that these no longer emit VEGF. By doing so, we stop the uncontrolled growth of blood vessels. To achieve this, the entire avascular area beyond the borderline must be treated with laser spots, as you can see here in the right image. And those laser spots have to have the correct amount of power, and they have to be placed sufficiently close to each other. Overlapping should be avoided, as it would damage the retina. Here you see two images of ROP. On the left side, we see the borderline. This is in between the normal retina and the avascular retina. And everything beyond this borderline has to be treated. On the right side, you see that treatment has been completed. The laser spots have a grayish color, which is an indication that the correct laser energy was delivered to the retina. Some dots are close to each other, which is good. Some, as here, have, at least to my understanding, a little bit too much space in between. This might lead to continued imitation of VEGF, and the vessels might continue to grow in this area. So here's ROP with the laser module. And in case you don't see a difference, the only visual difference from the hardware side is the laser foot pedal. Let's talk about software. Let me recap the diagnostic curriculum. We have 5 tiers in the old diagnostic curriculum. A. Device handling. B. Retinal autonomy. And then we have classification of ROP either in the learning mode, which is C, or in the exam mode, which is D. And then we have clinical cases. What we did for the upcoming update, we separated those into 2 sections. The first section is about learning the handling of the ophthalmoscope and a little bit about anatomy. And the second part is about ROP. So now we have in the diagnostic curriculum 2 tiers. 1 is device handling and anatomy, 2 is ROP examination. And for the laser update, we added a second courseware, the laser therapy courseware. And this contains 1 tier about laser therapy. Let's have a look how we can assign this new courseware to existing trainees. First of all, I want to make sure that my user that I'm going to use is in the new laser courseware. So I log in as an administrator, I find my user, and I check that he is already in the ROP laser therapy courseware. Okay, let's log out and log in as this trainee. If I would log in for the first time, it would look like this. I would be still in my diagnostic courseware, as I told you, with 2 courses, device handling and ROP examination. And now I switch the courseware to the ROP laser courseware, and here I have my new tier with several courses. Of course, I can also do this in VRMNet. If I create a new user, or if I edit an existing one in VRMNet, you see that I have the option in the courseware section to select a new courseware. We already had the diagnostic courseware, but now we can add the laser therapy courseware. And you also see that we can assign 2 coursewares at the same time to one trainee. This is something new, and this is something we will also use in the slit lamp laser release that is coming next year, where you can also assign more than one courseware to one user. What is also new in the software is the laser tab. You see here on the left side we have a new tab called laser, and here you can change the settings of the laser module. This is something that would in reality sit on the table next to the unit, and you could switch the settings there. You can activate the laser, and you can change the power in milliwatts, the duration in milliseconds, and you can change the interval. So in case you stay with the foot on the foot pedal, you shoot continuously, and you can change the interval up to 1000 milliseconds. If it is set to 0 milliseconds as here, this means only single shots can be fired. Let's have a brief look at the new courseware, the laser therapy curriculum, and then we will speak about each section a little bit more in detail. First of all, we start with an online course that is in VRMNet. Then we have the practical courses. Course A1 and A2 is about focusing and aiming. A1 is more in the center, whereas A2 is more in the periphery. Here you fire only single shots, and it's not about the laser energy yet, so every shot will be in a purple color, so like an abstract shot, so you only see where you did shoot and if it was in focus. A3 now introduces the interval. If you stay on the foot pedal and you have an interval bigger than 0 milliseconds, you shoot continuously, and A3 teaches you that. B starts then by introducing how to set the correct power of the laser. Instead of the purple abstract shots, we now see realistic shots on the retina, either being not really visible if the laser energy was not high enough, or too wide in case of too much energy was delivered. C teaches confluency, so you learn how to set the spots correctly next to each other with a correct distance, no overlapping as I explained. And D finally is about clinical trainings, where you have to treat the whole avascular areas of a baby in both eyes. Okay, let's have a closer look. Treatment. As I said, this is an online course, and this online course will teach you about the ROP management with laser. A1 is about focus and aiming. So you see here that we have abstract circles that you have to place laser spots in, and the system tells you with either a red X or a green check mark if you hit the correct position and if your laser was in focus. Of course, in the end you will get an evaluation, so you see which spots you hit correctly, and as always you get many other details about what you did correct and where you can improve. Let's have a look how this looks on the simulator. Let's start the first task of the first course, aiming and focus. I get instructions on how to set the laser. I get, as always, details about the patient. I get my objective. Here I have to shoot each aiming mark once with a single pulse. So here is the new laser tab. I can enable the laser. I can set the power to what was told. 200 milliwatts, 100 milliseconds. Let's do that. And no interval for the moment. So now I find the aiming marks, the aiming spots, and I have to put a single shot inside those aiming marks. here they are. I need to have the correct working distance. You see it in green. If I'm too close, it's yellow. If I'm too far away, it's also yellow or even red. If I have the correct distance, it's green. I have to focus my laser and I press the foot pedal.
Successful shot. Successful shot. Successful
If
shot.
I'm too far away, as an example, red, the distance is red. Or maybe let's do it too close.
Failed working distance.
It says failed working distance. If I'm out of focus or even if I miss,
Failed aiming.
it says failed aiming. Okay? Yeah, here you see the evaluation. As I said, many details about how you did with the laser, with the energy, and so on. Okay. A2 is more or less the same thing. You see already here in the screenshot, it is near the ora serrata, so it's more challenging to visualize this area. So you might need to use the little tool to indent the eye, or at least to manipulate the eye to get into this area. A3 is now about the interval. I told you, if you set it to 0, as we did in the first task, it is only a single pulse, and even if you stay on the foot pedal, it only emits one single pulse. But now we learn how to set it to more than 0, and then if you stay on the foot pedal, you shoot continuously. You will see how I do that on the simulator, and you will also see that I clearly fail to do that, because even if I do it with 1 second in between, I was not really able to be as quick and to reposition my laser spot. So this is the first task of A3. (200 milliwatts, 100 millisecond, and the interval should be between 300 and 1000 milliseconds. I activate the laser and I set the interval to 1000 because, as I said, I'm really not skilled enough to do it faster, and still you will see that I will struggle on shooting. You see the red aiming beam for the laser. It's sometimes hard to see. We could have decreased the light of the ophthalmoscope to make it with more contrast. I use the indenter to rotate the eye a little bit to stabilize the eye. You see here I have too much indentation. I need to be a little bit more gentle here. And I try to visualize the area. Yeah, that is looking better. Here for me in the video it's hard to see the aiming beam, but on the simulator I had a quite good look. And you see, it shoots every second and I'm not capable of doing that. You have to do everything correct, the working distance, the focus, so your distance between the head and the patient, and then every 1 second you have one shot and you need to position it correctly. Because I was so bad, I tried to find the other area in the other eye, so I looked around. To be honest, I'm cheating here a little bit because usually, or in reality, you would walk around the patient. Here I use our turning table to turn the baby in front of me. I found the other area, and now let's try it again. Working distance is okay, it's green. I move my head to have it more in focus. Yeah, and at least I did 2 okays. Course B is now about the laser power. Up to now you saw those purple laser spots like abstract laser spots. Here you see already in the screenshot, now we have a more realistic visualization, either, as in this case here, with maybe not enough energy, whereas this might have been already too much energy. So let's see how this looks on the simulator. Here I have to shoot in circle targets, and the system tells me to vary the power in between 150 and 500 milliwatts. And by doing so, I have in the end several spots, and the system asks me in the end to focus with a laser beam on the best spot that I think is the best laser energy setting, and then the system will score me. So the idea is that you learn how different laser energies look like. So this is obviously not enough energy. I increase the milliwatts, the power. I shoot the second target. Still almost nothing to see. Let's crank it up even more. No, still nothing. I checked that it should go up to 500, so I increased it even more. Here you see that we have already a little bit of grayish or whitish color. And as I begin to crank it up even more, here I failed the working distance, I see some results on the retina. Here you see that was for sure too much, so I go down from 470 to 410, and I tried one last time. Yeah, maybe still too much. So now I keep my laser dot on one target I think was the best one, and then the system will tell me if that was really the best spot that I did regarding the energy. So you see here, is selected aiming mark optimal? Yes. So at least I did select the right one, and again the system scores me about how I did that. Course D is then about confluency. As you see in the screenshot, we have an area that we have to cover. It's not the whole avascular area, it's only a small area, but we have to treat this area confluently. So the spots should be close to each other, but not overlapping. Let's start C, the first task of confluence. In this case, it's a stripe. So I set the interval to the maximum because I'm not really skilled. I set the settings that I think are good. And then I will use the tool to stabilize the eye. This is required in this task because the baby will otherwise look in different directions. And I start by firing one single shot just to see if the energy is okay. Again, you see the aiming beam not really good here in the video, but I realized it was way too less energy and I cranked it up. So I start in this blue area, which is the stripe, and now I shoot continuously. I think it's still hard to see if we get some results on the retina, but as I do not crank up the energy, I do crank up the energy, okay. So now we should see a little bit more whitish color. Yeah, that's way better. So you see now the spots, and now I try to shoot continuously and to stay in the area, to have the correct working distance, to have the correct distance between the head and the lens and the patient, and to do that confluently. This was, I think those 3 spots were really good. Here there's too much distance in between. As I can tell you, it's really not easy. And I can hardly imagine to do that on a real baby. Okay, let's see how the evaluation treats me. Again, not really good. It's about laser count outside fundus, about the treatment coverage, about how many shots I did per petal activation, if my laser spots were in focus, if I injured the cornea. You see a lot of stuff to learn. And finally, we have course D, the clinical training. Now you really have a baby with ROP and you have to treat the whole avascular retina. First task of D, clinical training. I activate the laser. I set my estimate of the power settings. I use the tool. You see that the baby is already moving the eye, so the tool is really necessary here to stabilize the eye. And we see the border between the normal retina and the avascular area. I tried to treat at least a little bit of that. Laser is not too bad. Maybe I could crank it up a little bit. Here I had the reflection in my way, so I tried it a little bit different. Stabilize the eye. Here you see I hit at least 2 dots at the same position, so it's too wide. This one here. If you think I did not see where I put my spots here, I think I had on the other eye a better visualization. Because here on the touch screen we see of course the view of one of my eyes, whereas I have my 2 eyes. And even if I have the reflection of the iris in one eye, I might still have good view in the other eye. So you see some areas where there was too much energy delivered. At least some areas look, at least, I think, okay. You see, every time I have an overlap, it is too wide, sometimes even with black dots in the middle, which is not good. So let's see how the evaluation looks like. For sure I did not succeed because I did only treat a little bit of the area. And this is a really nice representation here. So when I only activate the target boundary, I see white lines indicating the area that I have to treat. When I activate the treated retinal area, I see where I placed my laser spots, either in green or in a more reddish color, which means I had overlap and delivered too much energy here. And if I activate the treatment confluency option here, I see the outline in purple where I had confluency, and you see that I still had some space in between some spots and I did not yet achieve confluency in this area. Evaluation. Yeah, I think we covered this already in the video. As always, our evaluation is very detailed, it's objective, and you can learn where you can improve in your handling of the laser.